الحمد لله 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 الحمد لله. السلام على آدم صفوة الله، السلام على نوح نبي الله، السلام على إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام على موسى كليم الله، السلام على عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا خير خلق الله، السلام عليك يا صفي الله، السلام عليك يا محمد بن عبد الله خاتم النبيين، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب وصي رسول الله، السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليكما يا سبطي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة، السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين سيد العابدين وقرة عين الناظرين، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي باقر العلم بعد النبي، السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق البار الأمين، السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الطاهر الطهر، السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي، السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد النقي الناصح الأمين، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي، السلام على الوصي من بعده، اللهم صل على نورك وسراجك وولي وليك ووصي وصيك وحجتك على خلقك، السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله، السلام عليك يا بنت فاطمة وخديجة، السلام عليك يا بنت أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا بنت الحسن والحسين، السلام عليك يا بنت ولي الله، السلام عليك يا أخت ولي الله، السلام عليك يا عمة ولي الله، السلام عليك يا بنت موسى بن جعفر ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك عرف الله بيننا وبينكم في الجنة وحشرنا في زمرتكم وأوردنا حوض نبيكم وسقانا بكأس جدكم من يد علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله عليكم، أسأل الله أن يريننا فيكم السرور والفرج وأن يجمعنا وإياكم في زمرة جدكم محمد صلى الله عليه وآله، وأن لا يسلبنا معرفة معرفتكم إنه ولي قدير. أتقرب إلى الله بحبكم والبراءة من أعدائكم والتسليم إلى الله راضيا به غير منكم منكر ولا مستكبر، وعلى يقين ما أتى به محمد وبه راد نطلب بذلك وجهك يا سيدي اللهم ورضاك والدار الآخرة. يا فاطمة اشفعي لي في الجنة، يا فاطمة تشفعي لي في الجنة، فإن لك عند الله شأنا من الشأن. اللهم إني أسألك أن تختم لي بالسعادة فلا تسلب مني ما أنا فيه، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم استجب لنا وتقبله بكرمك وعزتك وبرحمتك وعافيتك، وصلى الله على محمد وآله أجمعين وسلم تسليما يا أرحم الراحمين. صلى الله على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وليمحص الله الذين آمنوا ويمحق الكافرين. حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يعلم الله الذين جاهدوا منكم ويعلم الصابرين. ولقد كنتم تمنون الموت من قبل أن تلقوه فقد رأيتموه وأنتم تنظرون. وما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا وسيجزي الله الشاكرين. وما كان لنفس أن تموت إلا بإذن الله كتابا مؤجلا ومن يرد ثواب الدنيا نؤته منها ومن يرد ثواب الآخرة نؤته منها وسنجزي الشاكرين وكأي من نبي قاتل معه ربيون كثير فما وهنوا لما أصابهم في سبيل الله وما ضعفوا وما استكانوا والله يحب الصابرين وما كان قولهم إلا أن قالوا ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين فآتاهم الله ثواب الدنيا وحسن ثواب الآخرة والله يحب المحسنين يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تطيعوا الذين كفروا يردوكم على أعقابكم فتنقلبوا خاسرين بل الله مولاكم وهو خير الناصرين سنلقي في قلوب الذين كفروا الرعب بما أشركوا بالله ما لم ينزل به سلطانا ومأواهم النار وبئس مثوى الظالمين ولقد صدقكم الله وعده إذ تحسونهم بإذنه حتى إذا فشلتم وتنازعتم في الأمر الأمر وعصيتم من بعد ما أراكم ما تحبون منكم من يريد الدنيا ومنكم من يريد الآخرة ثم صرفكم عنهم ليبتليكم ولقد عفا عنكم والله ذو فضل على المؤمنين إذ تسعدون ولا تلوون على أحد والرسول يدعوكم في أخراكم فأثابكم غمًا بغم لكي لا تحزنوا على ما فاتكم ولا ما أصابكم والله خبير بما تعملون. ثم أنزل عليكم من بعد الغم أمنة نعاسا يغشى طائفة منكم وطائفة قد أهمتهم أنفسهم يظنون بالله غير الحق ظن الجاهلية يقولون هل لنا من الأمر من شيء قل إن الأمر كله لله يخفون في أنفسهم ما لا يبدون لك يقولون لو كان لنا من الأمر شيء ما قتلنا هاهنا قل لو كنتم في بيوتكم لبرز الذين كتب عليهم القتل إلى مضاجعهم وليبتلي الله ما في صدوركم وليمحص ما في قلوبكم والله عليم بذات الصدور. إن الذين تولوا منكم يوم التقى الجمعان إنما استزلهم الشيطان ببعد ما كسبوا ولقد عفى الله عنهم إن الله غفور حليم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Salamun alaikum, brothers and sisters, and welcome to the Imam Hussein Islamic Center. Congratulations on the birth of Sayyeda Ma'asuma. Firstly, we would like to congratulate Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman as we all commemorate, as we celebrate the birth of his auntie Sayyeda Ma'asuma Salamullahi alayha. Sayyeda Ma'asuma Salamullahi alayha is buried in the holy city of Qum, a city now which has the foundations of the scholars of our religion, in a lot of houses over there. There is a hadith on Sayyida Ma'asuma Salamullahi alayha. Allama Majlisi narrates that a lady from my children by the name of Fatima will be buried in Qum. Whoever visits her shrine will certainly be admitted to heaven. As we see in the ziyarah, it says, Ya Fatima ishfa'i li fil jannah fa inna laki sha'nun min ash-sha'n. That means that, Ya Fatima, give us your intercession, for you is a piece of heaven, inshallah. Inshallah, to begin the program with some nice nasheed, I would like to invite Zahra Zalghut, if we can invite her with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat. The moon weeps over you as it recalls your memory, O noble lady. As it is reminded of your journey afoot the road to your Imam, O Ma'asum of Qum, upon your loyalty my salam, I send a plenty. You are the Fatima of the day, walking for miles to Khurasan. As you raise both palms in supplication, learns from you every nation. As we knock on your door in Qum, we bow and only ask for your salvation. O the great lady, grant us with your intercession, the second Zahra who faced trials no less than Karbala, a bright light cloaked in the darkest clouds. As you recall Imam Reza and weep out loud. Your feet in agony and the memories of the daughters of Ali will haunt you daily, yet you never gave up on your journey, and by Wallah, this is your legacy. A belief unwavering in the glory of Almighty, and there's not a doubt, but rather in my mind lives this certainty. Just like the daughter of Ali, only another Fatima can revive such a legacy. When faced with every torment, your heart and voice must have proclaimed proudly, I've seen nothing but God's beauty. Salawat.
Please recite a salawat for the well-being of her and her family, inshallah. Just a few announcements. Inshallah, in 2 weeks we will be holding the celebration for the birth of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. There is a request that we recite Fatiha for Haji Hamida Ali, Haji Maryam Hijazi, Ghulam Hussein Ali Muhammad, and the sponsor for tonight's program has asked that we recite Fatiha for one of their deceased. If we can recite a Fatiha, but before it aloud, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Without further ado, can I ask that we invite His Eminent Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi up with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن ولا ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Before I begin, I would like you all to recite a loud salawat in order for us to be able to visit the shrine of Sayyeda al-Ma'suma. We're at a time right now where travel has become restricted and people were in the habit of visiting her shrine annually, some even biannually. We were able to go there all the time. Now things have changed. Human beings are very adaptable and they seem to cope with change when it comes to some things. But other things they are not. We can talk about the benefit of a ziyarah, but I'll leave that to the very end of our discussion. Instead, one of the things about Fatima alayha salam, and you'll find this with a lot of the shrines that you visit, is sometimes you will visit a shrine of this person that is buried there, and it's a shrine that has value. And you'll realize that the person that you're visiting is someone that didn't live long in the dunya. As in the case of Fatima al-Ma'suma alayha salam, she was only, into the point it says, into her early 20s or late teens, somewhere around there. That's how long she was alive for. So people wonder, wow, that she has been given such a status in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal. The secret for those that attain a lofty position with the eyes of God, and to know your position, it's not a lottery. To know your position with the eyes of God, in the eyes of God, is to test yourself. How do I test myself to know my position? Someone says, can I know now where I stand with God? Of course you can. Of course you can know where you are when it comes to your position with God. How? The Imam says, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, says, in order for you to know your position in the eyes of God, he says, look at your position when it comes to committing sin. The quicker you are to commit sin, the further you are from God. This is how you know. That's a scale for you to work it out. If you're someone that gets an idea, a thought, and just follows it, that's how far you are from God. And guess who knows you the best other than Allah? Yourself. So you know yourself in that position. So it's not going to be a day where we don't know. The discussion tonight, just to let you know, is a lot of people I talk to in these days, I see a lot of people that are despairing, people that are unhappy, people that think they've missed the boat, that they've failed in their life. And you talk to people, they say, I'm not where I expected myself to be. Now, there's no one that you would find that says, I want to be miserable. Everyone looks to be comfortable. Everyone looks to be in good faith and happy. And they want to be in a position where they feel at rest. And people, if you ask them what is comfort and what is happiness, generally they tell you to achieve the degree I want to achieve. Isn't that right? To get the degree I want, to do the job I want to do, to marry the person I want to marry, to have the house I want to have the car I want to have, to live in the place I want to live. If I have all these, they say this is the road to happiness and comfort. But let's say we look at this path, honestly. I remember this, there was an advertisement when I was a child, and I never understood it as a kid, what they were trying to say. In the advertisement, I probably understood it the way they wanted me to understand it, but I understand it differently now. See, it had a guy driving a Ferrari around the mountain edge, and all these cars behind him, you know, he's driving down at about 30 or 40 k's an hour. They're all beeping their horn. And as they zoom into the car, it's got this really old man driving the Ferrari. And then the ad says, by the time you can actually begin to enjoy your life, you will be too old. In other words, trying to get people to get loans at an earlier time. And I actually thought at the time, you know, that yes, someone needs to get a loan, and that's what they were trying to sell. But when I got older, I understood it differently. Is for you to actually reach the point where you've become comfortable, as they say, you're too old to become comfortable. You know? You aren't in that position to enjoy anymore. So for me to get this degree, for me to get this job, for me to get this person that I want to marry, for me to have all these things, by the time I've attained them, and the strain and the hardship. Look at, you see people when they're going through uni and they're studying. I used to always see guys and they'd have like buff, their hair would be hanging out everywhere, and you'd say they don't want to cut their hair because of the stress that they have. You see they're uncomfortable, the angst when it comes to study, it's visible. And then getting the job, because at the beginning it's not like you apply for a job and they say, welcome, you are the CEO of this company. You know, you enter a company, you're right at the bottom. You're the bottom of the scrap heap when you first begin. Even if you enter, like even if you say, for example, to enter the army and through a degree and you become an officer, you don't enter as a lieutenant general or something. You start off as what? You start off as a petty officer or something along the line. You're an officer, but you're right at the bottom. You know, you're just above a staff sergeant or something. You're not anything that's going to be of something of value. So I have to go through a tough hardship to achieve this. But this isn't what I am looking for from the outset. I want to be comfortable. I want to be relaxed. And if I look at the word that I'm looking for in Arabic, it's called raha. You know, I want to be martih. I want to be comfortable. I want to have this relief. I want to feel what we would say. I want to feel relaxed and be comfortable and be at ease and have a long respite. Okay, here's the problem. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, before we begin, just a quick question. Okay, are we meant to be miserable? First, here's a question. Are you meant to be miserable in the dunya? Yeah, people are miserable. Are they meant to be miserable? Some people come and say yes. You say why? They say the Messenger of God sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says ad-dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir. They say that the Prophet says, and this is actual hadith, that he says the dunya is the prison of the believer. The dunya is the prison of the believer, and it is the paradise of the unbeliever. Now let's look at this. Sometimes we look at some believers. Take a look, for example, people living in Yemen. They're believers there, living their lives. They're at the mercy of bombings. They're at the mercy of attacks, starvation. All these things are happening to them. And they're believers. So you say, yep, that applies. See, this is like a prison. But is that the case for all believers? No. Look at you, for example. You're living in Australia. We don't even know what corona is. The only thing you know, you see images of it, of the what's it called, of what the virus looks like. But what we know of it is nothing. We're living a pretty good life. Then you also have unbelievers that are living under bombings as well. Are there any countries right now that you look at where kuffar are being bombed, kuffar are being attacked? Of course. That still exists. So hold on. The Prophet of God saying here, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that the dunya is jannatul kafir. Are all unbelievers living in a paradise and all believers living in a prison? No. So what is it that we have not understood in this hadith? Okay? And does it mean that we have to lead miserable lives? Are we able to live good lives in this world and the next? These are questions you have to answer. We'll move along. Sometimes we have a feature that we don't like, an ugly feature. That's why when you see someone taking a selfie or someone's taking a photo, have you noticed there are people when they want to take a photo, they have to stand at a certain angle. They say, take a photo of my good side. Even though we can't really, scientifically, we can't specify what beauty is. The closest a scientist can come to what beauty is, they say, is symmetry. You know, if something's symmetrical, it's beautiful. But you really can't explain beauty scientifically. That's why we say beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. But we don't, so we use what's symmetrical. If anything is symmetrical, it looks beautiful. And that's the way that we judge what is beautiful. That's the measurement that we use. However, when I want to take an image of myself, for example, if I have an attractive top half, most of my images I'll take is of my top half. If I have an attractive bottom half, most of my images will be of my bottom half. If I have an attractive right side, left side, they're the images that I'll take. And if I have an ugly feature, I could be attractive all over and have one ugly feature and I become perturbed from it. I become antagonized from this one ugly feature, okay? And some people, it destroys their life. It makes them miserable. You know, you'll see them, they go, look, I've got broad shoulders. I don't like them. Generally, this is with the females, not with the males. Males love broad shoulders, you know? Or a woman sees some feature she does not like and she's upset with them. And other people, like for example, my child always says, I got dimples, I hate dimples. And I said, you serious? People kill themselves from dimples. Says, no, I don't like dimples. I can't stand them. And whenever she smiles, I say, I like your dimples. She'll cover her mouth because she doesn't like it. And she's probably the opposite of most people. But anyway, in this case, when we see this example in ourselves, we start to become disturbed. So anything that I don't like, or any feature that is with me that affects me in any way, no matter how minute it is, okay, will affect my very being. I won't feel comfortable. And people tend to bear enmity towards these things, the smallest things possible. And then they become agitated. Sometimes you'll see someone, they're driving, okay, and they'll see someone turn left, and they go, did you see that? And you say, what? They turned left without indicating. And they're turning left. How did they disturb you? You say, yeah, but they should indicate. They want, I remember once we went to the Hajj, and one gentleman said there should be zero tolerance. And my brother Sheikh Ali said, why? He said, zero tolerance for any crime. Whatever, people should be punished with the book. And this guy was a white collar guy. Then my brother Sheikh Ali said, what about the white collar crimes that you commit? Your tax evasion, all the little rorts and rips that you guys do. Shouldn't you be placed under corporal punishment? You should be hung because the money that you steal, the things that you do. Because you know, there's people that have this, what he's talking about, he's upset with the people that jaywalk. You know, he's not upset with the people that rob countries of their whole fiscal system. They take everything financial from these people. That's not an issue for him. Their issue is what? With someone that steals 20 cents from some tin or something. That's their big issue that they have. So people are perturbed with the normal things, the smallest things in life. This also antagonizes them. So a lot of the times people make themselves miserable. Okay. So they burn themselves, and what do? By burning themselves, they burn others. Not only do they become irritated, but through their irritation, they irritate others. Imam Abu Abdullah al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, "Man sa'a khulquhu adhaba nafsa." So when I have a bad temperament, Imam says, I punish myself. Because when you're upset on your own. When you're antagonizing yourself, you become miserable. Okay. So what is comfort? And back to the question, are we meant to be comfortable? Are we meant to be living in a prison? Once again, a hadith comes out, you get every Tom, Dick and Harry want to give their opinion of what the hadith means. But the Imam explains it. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, Al-dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir. That this dunya is the prison of the believer, and the paradise of the unbeliever is when you compare it to the hereafter. This dunya, if you compare it to paradise, is a prison for the believer, because the believer is going to paradise. But this dunya, if you compare it to where the unbeliever is bound, the fire of hell, then this is a paradise. This is the meaning of the hadith. So how would I get comfort? You get comfort when you alleviate yourself of the burdens that are, or the burden that is not yours. What are the burdens that are not mine? Everything other than the hereafter. Let me explain what I'm trying to say. Your burden is whether you enter heaven or hell. This is your primary concern. Everything else I study to get a degree. Whether I achieve the degree or not is in the hands of God. I work to build a business. Whether the business is built or not is in the hands of God. I have a family. I raise my children. Whether my children turn out good or not is in the hands of God. So remove this burden. If something happens to my child, it's in the hands of God. I remove it from me. So when I believe in the hereafter, this is where I get my comfort. Because I know that I have a choice with what's coming to me. See, don't ever think, this is what I was saying from the very beginning, don't ever think on the day of judgment you're going to sit there dumbfounded. Am I going to heaven or hell? No. On the day of judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Al-Haqqa, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ. The one that is given their book in their right hand, what do? They'll firstly run around and they'll show off. قَالُوا هَاؤُمُ اقْرَءُوا كِتَابِيَ. Read this. This is what. And then they'll say, إِنِّي ظَنَنْتُ أَنِّي مُلَاقٍ حِسَابِيَ. I was almost certain about what I was going to get. I was sure of it. They know. Well, honestly, if you don't know, when you hear the hadith about ziyarat Fatima alayhi salam al-Ma'suma, when you're reading the ziyarah, it says, Ya Fatima, ishfa'ili fil jannah. Oh Fatima, intercede for me in paradise. فَإِنَّ لَكِ عَنْدَ اللَّهِ شَأْنًا مِنَ الشَّأْنِ. That you have a status and a position in the eyes of God. And I've come, why would I go to a country or any city other than where I'm living? What is my purpose? You know, honestly, when you go to Hajj, what takes you to Mecca? في واد غير ذي زرع, as Ibrahim says, salawatullahi wasalam alayhi, to a valley that has no what? No growth. It has nothing that's livable. In fact, you know, when you look at Mecca back in the old days when it actually looked like Mecca, now it looks like Las Vegas, Nevada. You know, there's all the hotels and all this, except there is no gambling yet. Nastajiru billah Allah al-alam when that comes in. And don't think it's not with the way that they're going. So anyway, when I take a look at the purpose of me going to these places, it's none other than I know what the reason is where I go to these places. I know what the result is. فإني ظننت أني ملاق حسابي. I know what I'm getting. فهو في عيشة راضية في جنة عالية. That they get this paradise. What from? Because they know where they're going. They know what they've done. And that's why the believer is comfortable about leaving this world. Why? They're comfortable. When the time comes, they're comfortable. Why? Because they know where they're going. As for the unbeliever, it's the worst thing when they're about to leave this world. See, the Day of Judgment exposes everything. So you know, sometimes when I do somebody a favor, you could do something. You do somebody a favor, what your hidden agendas are, no one knows. You know, sometimes when someone's been really nice to you, and then you're thinking to yourself, oh, this person's been overly nice to me. You know, when you're young, you think, oh, what a nice person. As you're older, you get, because you're conditioned. You've become a vet of the game. The older you get and he's been too nice, you go, all right, what's the angle? When's it going to come in? When's he going to ask for a loan? When's it going to come in? You're waiting for what the angle is when they're being overly nice. Because you're what's it called? You've been weathered. On the Day of Judgment, all that's exposed. The hidden agendas, the hidden good that you've done. You know, the things that you do that no one knows about on the Day of Judgment, that's when they're exposed. The hidden evils, that's when they're exposed. Someone gets undeserved recognition now. Over there, you'll know who they are. You'll know their position. And you'll know their status. But what is it with comfort in this world? Actual comfort, and what comfort is. Because we're not supposed to be miserable, but are we meant to be comfortable in this world? Let's take a look what the Imam says. This is a problem. This is what brings us to misery. Because people seek comfort. You know? People want discomfort as if it exists. Imam al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salam alayhi, speaking to his companions, he says to them, لا تتمنوا المستحيل. What? لا تتمنوا المستحيل. Do not wish for what? For the impossible. Do not wish for the impossible. فقالوا ومن يتمنى المستحيل. And who desires or wishes for, who wants the impossible? No one seeks it. Who seeks the impossible? No one seeks the impossible. You can't get the impossible. And then the Imam says, Antum, you, ألستم تمنون الراحة في الدنيا. He says, you are the ones that seek the impossible. Do you not seek comfort in the dunya? So what's the Imam saying here? The one that seeks comfort in the dunya is someone that seeks the impossible. And this is what is. Why? Because I need to look at myself as a human being. Humans are different to anything of God's creation. I'll give you an example. You ever watched one of the National Geographic or BBC World, whatever that, you know, the ones where they show the animal videos? You watch a lion. How much meat does a lion consume in a day? or in a week. Once the lion has become satiated, once the lion has eaten its fill, they used to say a duck can walk past the nose of a lion, the lion doesn't move. A lion goes to sleep, that's it, it's done what it needs to do. It had its fill, and that's enough. It's like, people that keep reptiles as a pet. You tell them they give a rat or a mouse to the snake, that's it. They leave it, it's filled. Like for example, I think the brown snake, which I wouldn't recommend anyone keep a brown snake as a pet. But the brown snake, I think it doesn't need to eat or drink in 18 months. Something like that. Don't quote me on it. It's something around that. It's a long time where it doesn't need to consume anything. Do you imagine that? It doesn't need to eat. Humans are different. Humans are insatiable. What do I mean when they're insatiable? What do I mean when you say they're insatiable? Take a look at a human being. First, we always have a goal. I just want a job. I get a job, I move up, I move up, I move up, I make money, I make more money. Does it ever stop? Take a look at people that ruled. Kings, they keep conquering land, conquering land, conquering land. When they've got everything they want, what do they start doing? They start to challenge the Creator. Pharaoh was the ruler of what? Upper and Lower Egypt. When I say it should be Upper Egypt's lower than Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. He controlled both of them. He was the king of both. I have alaysa li mulk Masr. He says, I control all of Egypt. And they said, Ana rabbukum al-a'la. I am your Lord. He challenged God. Because he was above all this. He could get whatever he wants. Like, think about it. We're sitting here. Could you imagine you could move your finger and have someone killed? You just look at one of your guards and point, that person's decapitated in front of you. That's how much power you wield. The human doesn't ever get satiated. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So you're understanding where I'm getting to. You can't be comfortable because you can't get it all. That's why. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, In kunta turidu min ad-dunya ma yakfik. If you seek from this world what is sufficient for you. فَإِنَّ أَيْسَرَ مَا فِيهَا يَكْفِيكَ. If this is what you seek, then the least of what is in this dunya is sufficient for you. He says, وَإِن كُنْتَ إِنَّمَا تُرِيدُ مَا لَا يَكْفِيكَ فَإِنَّ كُلَّ مَا فِيهَا لَا يَكْفِيكَ. And if you seek what doesn't suffice you more than that, everything, if you get the whole dunya in its entirety, it will not suffice you. You're never going to get it all. That's why when we read Dua bi Hamza Thamali, what's the last bit of it? وَرَضِّنِي مِنَ الْعَيْشِ بِمَا قَسَمْتَ لِي يَا أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Make me be pleased with whatever portion you have given for me. Sometimes I'll be sitting down thinking to myself, I want this, and then I'll say this dua, وَرَضِّنِي مِنَ الْعَيْشِ بِمَا قَسَمْتَ لِي. Because you know what it is, when you start wanting, it's Iblis. He doesn't stop. This guy's knocking on your door all the time. The whole time. He won't leave you to remind you, no, you should have this. You should ask for more. Ask. Make me pleased with what I have. Be realistic when it comes to your needs. Sometimes we'd sit there and say, Wallah, how many times have you said this and said this to yourself? If I had this much money, I would never have to work again. And we all know that's not true. You don't believe me? Go ask Bill. Go ask Warren. Go ask all these other guys. They have reached the top. Or Jeff. Now Jeff's number one. Ask them all. And they will tell you that it was never enough. They still want more. They haven't become satiated. You have multiple homes, you still won't be content. You're just beginning by, and you can be content. So you can have a lot and not be content, but you could be just getting by and be content. For me, who is richer? The one that is content at all times. Now, what I wanted to say here in this point is no matter how much you chase, you'll never be content. Because no one actually chases the dunya for the dunya. They chase it because they think that's what will give them contentment. Like, for example, when you're thirsty, you tell me I'm thirsty, I say, here, have this leaf. You say, hold on. It's not even artificial, it's fake. You'll say, this leaf won't replenish my thirst, will it? And I go, all right, have this stone. You say, this stone, what do you need? You say, water. I need water in order to quench my thirst. That's what I would need. I need water. And that's what I have. That's what I seek. Water in order to quench my thirst. Why is it when I want comfort and to be happy, I seek the stone like when I'm thirsty? This is, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Is that when I want contentment, I want comfort, I seek what won't give me comfort. I mentioned before, and when I talk about Aesar, I'm not talking about the pure minimalists. You know, this new minimalist thing that's been going on where people just get rid of. It's not about being a minimalist in this way. It's about being a minimalist with, if that's what I got, I'm happy with. It doesn't mean I have to, because now it's a bit of a fad. People tell you that I'm a minimalist and I want you to know about it. They want to let you know that they have. It's a bit like the people that do CrossFit. They want to tell everyone that they do CrossFit. They want to let everyone, I do CrossFit. Good on you. I do this, keto, or whatever. They have to let you know what they're actually doing. Same thing here. These people have to let you know they're being a minimalist. A minimalist, in the real meaning, is someone that whatever they have, they're content with, regardless of what it is. In fact, because a lot of the things that we seek, we do not need. Al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi salam says, أَكْثَرَ مَا يَطْلُبُ ابْنُ آدَمْ لَا حَاجَةَ بِهِ إِلَيْهِ. Most of the things that we seek, son of Adam means human beings, most of the things that we actually seek, we do not need. How many things do we buy that we don't need? Sometimes people, once I've seen, I've always wanted to keep a folder of things that are so useless. Just to like photos, to take a photo. Once I remember someone was selling, this is not a joke, they were selling a cap for a can. The aluminium cans? A cap that you put in the can. And if you see the ad was so ridiculous. What the ad was about, someone being stung in the throat by a bee. How did they get stung in the throat by the bee? The bee went into the aluminium can because it wanted some of the sugary beverage in there, And as this person went to drink, the bee went down their throat and stung them. And because this happened, they said, we made a cap for a can. And they actually, when you used to go into, or you go to supermarkets, and how they have those gadgets hanging off the side, it was one of those. And they'd actually sell it. And you could imagine the parent coming up and you say, you know what, that's a good product. It's useless. And this is what they purchase. They purchase useless things they really don't need. You know what I mean? Useless things that you don't need. Things that there is no need for. When people, I know when someone's had a first child, when you walk into the house, the first child they have, what do they have in their house? They've got all these safety instruments, on the drawers, on the doorknobs and everything, because they don't know how to have children. They don't know what children are like in the actual house. What, do you think a child doesn't know how to get over these things? They know how to do everything because they're watching you. They know exactly what they're looking for, they know exactly what they want to use, and they know how to make access or get access to it. So the whole time we are buying all these things we don't need. The baby monitors, for example. You don't need them. So most of the things we purchase, we actually don't need. We purchase them, we don't even need them. Because we are convinced by the advertising that we need them, and this becomes a problem for us, and that's why we feel uncomfortable. And that's why we have these problems, because we're all consumerists. I just want to have a look at a hadith that's on Imam Zayn al-Abidin and explain it to us. We'll discuss it between ourselves and I'll finish off. In this narration, the Imam is speaking to one of his companions, Sufyan, and he mentions, he's speaking to Az-Zuhri in this. It's narrated on Sufyan. And Az-Zuhri says that I heard him say this. La. It begins with what? This is an amr, a command from the Imam, or Allah, as we call Nahiya. That from this point, do not. The Imam's saying, La tatlub ma lam yukhlaq. Do not seek or ask for what was not created. He says, فَإِنَّ مَنْ طَلَبَ مَا لَمْ يُخْلَقْ تَقَطَّعَتْ نَفْسُهُ حَسَرَاتٍ. Because if you seek what was not created, could you imagine right now, you're in Australia, you're seeking a bunyip. You know, you've heard of a bunyip or not? You're seeking one of these mythological animals. You search everywhere for the bunyip. What's going to happen? You're looking for what? Something that was not created. So the Imam says, if you seek something that was not created, he says, taqatta'at nafsuhu hasarat. Taqatta'at. It's torn apart, it's ripped apart, it's cut apart. What? Their soul from what? Hasarat. Hasar, what's hasarat? Is that hasart ashay? It means it's when I feel what? When I feel like something, I'm not able to achieve. I feel this feeling of futility. I feel futile. I feel helpless. Why? Because I'm chasing what? My shadow. I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to achieve this. Have you ever seen someone trying to look at the back of their head? They keep spinning around, round. Are they going to see the back of their head? Can you possibly see the back of your head? You can spin round, you're never going to see the back of your head. And this is what these people are searching. Then the Imam says, وَلَمْ يَنَلْ مَا طَلَبْ. And they will not get what they seek. And then he says, وَكَيْفَ يُنَالُ مَا لَمْ يُخْلَقْ. And how are they going to get what wasn't created? And then the man, Az-Zuhri, says to the Imam, he says, وَكَيْفَ يُطْلَبْ مَا لَمْ يُخْلَقْ. He says, how do people, how do I seek or look for what wasn't created? And then the Imam says, مَنْ طَلَبَ الْغِنَى وَالْأَمْوَالِ وَالسَّعَةَ فِي الدُّنْيَا. The one that seeks what? And you need to hear the whole hadith before we talk. The one that seeks riches, ghina, okay, and wealth, and wasa'at al-amwal means, like also, all these three speak about wealth and riches, and vastness and wealth. And then he mentions what he's trying to say. He says, فَإِنَّمَا يَطْلُبُ ذَلِكَ لِلرَّاحَةِ. See, here's the point that you need to understand. The people that actually chase money don't chase wealth and money for money's sake. No one runs around after monopoly money. People chase money for what? Because they believe money will give them what? Comfort. They'll give them raha. That's why they chase it. It's not like they're chasing money. No one chases the actual wealth. They chase what they think the result will be from this wealth. And then the Imam says, وَالرَّاحَةُ لَمْ تُخْلَقْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَلَا لِأَهْلِ الدُّنْيا. Ar-Raha, comfort, was not created for this world or for the people of this world at all. This is what we're getting to. It doesn't exist. Then he says, إِنَّمَا خُلِقَتِ الرَّاحَةُ فِي الْجَنَّةِ وَلِأَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. And you might ask yourself that if comfort was only created for paradise and the people of paradise, how's that possible? Well, think about this. How do you people live every day knowing that you're going to die one day? That's enough to drive you mad. To know that you're terminal. We're all terminal. That should drive you mad. This is something, this for me is, I would say the biggest puzzle for me, the biggest puzzle that puzzles me is how atheists don't commit suicide. It really troubles me. How don't they commit suicide? You know, I tell people the difference between me believing in God and not believing is one bullet. That's it. I'll end it. How could I live knowing, because the anticipation of death is worse than death. Just waiting death is actually worse than death. But what makes you accept this is your belief in God. That you know I'm only here for a short while. وَإِنَّمَا تُنْقَلُونَ مِنْ دَارٍ إِلَى دَارٍ. The Prophet ﷺ says, you move from one world to the next. I'm going to move through a doorway. So everything else that I do is pointless. Now, I'll go back to, because of the time constraint that we have, I'm really sorry. I'll go back to what the narrations are with regard to Fatima. Firstly, Fatima al-Ma'asuma was the sister of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. Not just any sister, she was the sister from the same mother. Because the others were from different mothers. His other siblings. And that was the status that she held. In the position of the eyes of the Imam in terms that she was from the same mother. That was in terms of her birth. But that's not what we're looking at. We're not looking at wilad. Because anyone can be born from a good, they could be from a good lineage, but that doesn't mean anything. People ask, you say Habil was born from Adam and so was Qabil. We saw what Habil became and we saw what Qabil became. And like the sons of Nuh, and we saw within other prophets the same thing. And even within the Imams. So it's not only about Wiladi, it's about her status when the Imams speak about her. Both narrations, عن الإمام الرضا عليه السلام, the 8th Holy Imam, and Imam al-Jawad, say من زارها فله الجنة. Whoever visits her will get paradise. This is her status. And this is her position. Not only the ones that visit her will get paradise, I need to understand what is mentioned in the narrations when it comes to this. When it comes to visiting Fatima al-Ma'asuma and any of the Ma'asumin, I need to understand that not only will you get paradise, Allah Azza wa Jal has made it incumbent upon us to know the status of such people, to know the position of such people, to know the haqq, to know that the Imam considered her of this position, of this status. So in the ziyarah, as mentioned by our dear brother, when he mentioned, Ya Fatima ishfa'ili fil jannah, fa'inna laki 'inda Allah, he mentioned what? Sha'na min ash-sha'n. That you have a status and a position with Allah. That you can intercede. See, on the Day of Judgment, Allah Azza wa Jalla gives different people a status and an ability to intercede. Now, the question comes in when we get to the intercession part. How do I acquire intercession? From this part. When God says in the Quran, وَأَنَّ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, that mankind does not get except what they do. You have to achieve it. Your love and your regard to these Imams, and you traveling towards them. We're talking about the people that go with a contrite heart. Not everyone that's going, just as I mentioned last time in a discussion when it comes to jihad, not everyone that goes to the battlefield is there to fight in the way of God. Some people are there for personal reasons. Likewise with this, when it goes ziyarah, those with the contrite heart, those with the God-fearing heart, going in this position, like the Imam says, for them is this grand reward of paradise. Other than that, Salamullah alayha and her status is like if you see those that visit, say, the Zainab alayhi salam in Damascus, or those that even visit, say, Zainab's shrine in Egypt. People go there and ask, and they feel discomfort when they're there, and they feel something within the shrine. And you hear many stories of people, especially those that have been to Qom. Many people that have studied in Qom always say that they don't like to leave Qom. They like to live there. They actually enjoy the place where she is buried. And this is where the seminary was established. And I always mention this during her martyrdom, is her brother Imam al-Rida salawatullah alayh is called Alim al-Muhammad. He is the scholar of the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yet the seminary was where her shrine is and not where his shrine is. Okay, firstly, I'd like to ask you all to read the verse 5 times for Hajj Abdul Hussein Ali, the father of Hajj Abbas, for Allah Azza wa Jal to cure him of his ailments. On this night, the birth of Sayyeda Ma'asuma, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal, by reading this verse which we'll read, to dress him in the garments of shifa, to heal him from his illness. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. يا الله 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 يا Allah. We ask you, Allah, in the name of Fatima al-Ma'asuma, in the name of her brother Ali ibn Musa Rida salawatullah alayh, in the name of their father Musa ibn Ja'far and the Imma before him and the Imma after him, we ask you in their name to cure our sick, especially Al-Hajj Abdul Hussein Ali, and everyone that is ill out of the believers around the world. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to alleviate them of their pain, to cure them of their illnesses. And وَالْأَرْوَحَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بِالْأَخَص for the souls of Haji Hamida Ali, Haji Maryam Hajezi, and Ghulam Hussein and Ali Muhammad rahimallah. من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.